He'd really looked, it sounds awful, but he'd looked forward to dying, because after being ill for 4 years, he just wanted an end to it, and this seemed like a way out.
I didn't want to live anymore because it was just uncertain. I didn't know if I was going to live ill for the next 5 years or if I was just going to drop down dead the next day.
Darren was diagnosed with leukemia in 2010 at the age of 10. About 18 months later, he developed another cancer called Langerhans cell sarcoma, which developed in his tonsils. He was dubbed the boy in 7 billion, being the only boy in the world to have the two cancers together. We were told that he was literally living on antibiotics. It's the only thing keeping him alive. So when I asked them, well, when we take him off this conscious life support machine, how long are we talking? To which I was told 3 days, a week at most. When do you want to go to the hospice?
Yeah, when I went to the hospice, I decided to start planning my own funeral.
He chose to have Winston Churchill's hearse. He chose the music, he chose the costumes, so it wasn't just fancy dress, he chose everything right down to the last detail.
I wanted it to be a bit fun, I wanted it to have a party, because I wanted it to be how I wanted it, even though I wouldn't know what it would be like anyway.
It was empowering for all of us, and I think it gave Darren a sense of control as well, that okay, he didn't have a choice in dying, but he was going to make damn sure that he had a choice in everything else. Darren's mental health actually deteriorated incredibly to the point where he tried to kill himself. After watching him scream out in his sleep and beg me to help him, he begged me at one point to take him to Brussels because he'd just heard that they'd legalised euthanasia for children over 12. I was thinking about taking his belts away from him, should I let him have shoelaces, all those kinds of things. So I was convinced, absolutely convinced, that I was going to find him hanging one day. I had nothing more to lose. You know, the next step for me was burying my son, and I was absolutely hesitant about using cannabis. I knew the consequences of giving it to him, but at the point that I administered cannabis to him, none of that mattered. I was willing to face 14 years, every single day of a 14-year sentence, just to give him the alleviation that it gave him.
It sort of just relaxed my mental traffic. Loads of stuff was going on in my head all the time. It just shut that up.
He wasn't crying anymore. His pain had gone away, and he was no longer anxious and no longer upset, and just chilled out. And I thought, wow, you know, if it can do that and we can have him die in this way, then that's more than I ever wanted. That's more than I could ever hope for. And after 5 days of regularly administering it, his blood count arrived. His immune system had kicked in, and this was day 75, and he officially engrafted on day 104. I even asked the question, you know, was there anything you gave him that could have done this? And they told me no, there was no way. This was a miracle. So there's one thing reading about it, there's another thing seeing a miracle in front of your own eyes, but then seeing it with loads of other people and knowing it's not a one-off and seeing it work so effectively for so many people is why I'm so passionate about stopping prohibition, because prohibition has caused more harm than cannabis ever could. My view on the current stance with the government's view on cannabis is it's absolutely ludicrous. There is something fundamentally wrong in this country when people are criminalised and deemed as criminals for doing nothing more than alleviating their own suffering. I really hope that his doctors now push more forward for research. Just more questions need to be asked about this, because there are people suffering that don't need to be anymore.